Lord, make us instruments of your peace.
Where there is hatred, let us sow love.
Where there is injury, pardon.
Where there is doubt,
Faith. Where there is despair, hope.
Where there is darkness,
light. And where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master,
grant that we may not so much seek
to be consoled as to console,
to be understood as to understand,
to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive,
it is in pardoning that we are pardoned,
and it is in dying
that we are born to eternal life.
Amen.
WESN.
Hello there, and welcome to AM Prime on WESN Content Capital. I'm Keaton Shaw. Thank you very much for joining us for this edition of the program. Well, the budget debate continues in Parliament, but the opposition leader had her opportunity to respond to the presentation by the Minister of Finance last week, Monday. In her response, the opposition leader Kamala Prasad-Bisasa said the legacy of the People's National Movement administration after 9 years in office, well, she described it as bloodshed, bankruptcy, banditry, betrayal, butchery, brutality, and bullying. Yeah, a lot of these there actually. But a lot has been stated in respect to the budget presentation by the Minister of Finance. And the position of the opposition leader is also interesting because we understand that we are in an election year. So she has put forward a number of proposals should the United National Congress return to office in the next general election. But are those proposals in any way, are they feasible? How are they going to be achieved? Well, we get into that conversation this morning as I'm joined by the Public Relations Officer of the United National Congress, Dr. Kirk Mayhew. Good morning, Dr. Mayhew, and welcome back. It's good to see you.
Good morning. Thank you. And good morning to your viewers as well.
Dr. Mayhew, let me start in respect to the budget presentation. The opposition leader, in her response, has actually described this particular presentation as the Minister of Finance reading the PNM's eulogy. Though I understand we are in an election year, why was that description chosen in particular for this budget presentation?
Well, because it's the 10th, and it pains me to say that, but it's the 10th budget presentation by this minister, and it's the last of this term, and we hope the last ever. And basically, that is what we anticipate, because the country is fed up. People are absolutely fed up. We have gone backward in every single measure in the society under this government, and elections are coming up, and so we believe this is their eulogy.
Well, also interestingly, as part of the description, the opposition leader said that the government is bankrupt for cash. Based off of the figures given by the Minister of Finance, is it truly believable to even suggest that the government is bankrupt for cash? We wouldn't have a national budget if that were the case.
Well, this government has borrowed more than every other government combined in our history, right? So another thing is that this is the only government to have withdrawn from the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. And they've not only done it once, they've withdrawn 10 times from the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. They have just been eating into our savings, eating into our Heritage and Stabilization Fund, eating into our foreign exchange reserves. We when the People's Partnership left government in 2015, we had the highest level of foreign exchange in our history. And the PNM have now taken it down to 2017 levels. Well, it just keeps everything just keeps going backward and backward and backward under this government, and they will be borrowing again, and they just seem we have these dollar deficits. We have billions of dollars that cannot be accounted for. The government keeps wanting to reach into people's pockets. They have destroyed our revenue generation capacity of the economy. And this is a very important thing. The way the PNM conceive of the economy, they conceive of the economy as the government's budget. But that's not the economy. That's the government's finances. The economy is everybody together. So when you are taking money from citizens and transferring it to the government, they are seeing that as revenue generation. That's not revenue generation for the economy, that's revenue generation for the government. If we want to expand the economy, we need to expand the revenue capacity for the entire society. But the PNM have this antagonistic idea of the government versus the citizens, instead of seeing we all together collectively as the economy, and they are just increasing, you know, making up new, fines for traffic and driving, uh, the property tax, increased water and electricity rates coming up. Yes, it's not in as yet, but we all know the RIC uh, have submitted their reports and it's under consideration. All these things, because they have no more money. Besides the little that still trickles in with the collapsed energy sector. So, so in that sense, they are broke, and we are running on debt and fumes, really and literally.
Well, it's been suggested that the Prime Minister and government ministers have betrayed the population and betrayed Trinidad and Tobago in favor of an elitist mindset. Could you just explain that a bit further by what is meant in respect to the government betraying TNT for an elitist mindset?
Right. Well, okay, there's many aspects, but the main thing is from when Keith Rowley um, first came into government, and when he was asked whether he was concerned about the widening gap between the rich and the poor, and he said that doesn't concern him. The rich need to get richer. And when he was asked to walk back that statement, so the media gave him a chance, he doubled down and said, no, the rich need to get richer. And this has been the philosophy. The income uh, disparity has been growing, and the banks now, we have the banks and the leading conglomerates of this country recording record profits, while our economy has declined by 20% since this government has gone to office, has come to office, sorry. So so this is a parasitic model, because if the entire economy is going down, but the leading conglomerates are declaring profits, they are not bringing up floating all boats. They are not lifting up the entire society with them. They are rising while the rest of the economy are falling. And that is a terrible economic model. But that is what is happening under this government. And she gave a very interesting example with the uh, energy chamber, for example. The energy chamber has come to be dominated by BP and Shell and seeking their interests, and the local uh, energy companies, the small and medium enterprises and the service companies, which we have an incredible amount of talent and a pool of resources there, have been stifled and stymied by the current configuration of the energy chamber. Um, and so the one of the policies that she enunciated was for the state companies to be taken out of the energy chamber and and to be in its own organization, and also an organization to represent the small and medium service providers, uh, so that we can maximize local content. And again, so this is part of the change.
MP David Lee, as a report, I think it's the Sunday report, he indicated that the United National Congress plans on reviving the energy sector. Now, how does the United National Congress plan on reviving the energy sector, especially
um, Producing for the multinationals, for them to reap all the profits and us to be locked out of the sector, right? So we need to have much more local content and a vibrant local content body. Of course, re looking at reopening Petrotrin, right? We've been in discussion with the OWTU, and the last evaluations we've seen is that it is viable. And so we will be looking at reopening that soon, at the soonest. I'm having a panel of experts, uh, as the leader of opposition described in the budget. And the other aspect would be in terms, well, also we would have to deal with the incentives as well, for the gas producing industries. So that's the point, Lisa. And then also for the exploration side, right? So that's in terms of, because um, the new finds that have come on stream, juniper, etc., have come from the um, the tax incentives and structure that we had put in place under the PP government. And it takes some years for it to come through. So, and another thing is that it's just baffling that the PNM would tie the fortunes of our country, because everything about them holds strain until 2027. They are tying the entire fortunes of our country to a gamble in Venezuela, which is a geopolitical hotspot, that that at any moment things can change. Um, sure, we let's explore that, but Venezuela itself uh, has made a mess of our service providers for you see, and the relationship with Venezuela can only be a government to government relationship. Again, it's the elitist PNM mindset, right? Whereas with Guyana, already our service providers have gone across to Guyana. Many of them have just gone across. But we that wouldn't only be a government to government relationship. There are so many layers and levels because we speak the same language, because we are so close politically, culturally. We are we are um, really brother and sister countries, as Caribbean countries and Southern Caribbean countries as well. Um, there's so much more synergy to be had there if we tie, and if we had all that effort that Stuart Young would make to keep going, seeing Delcy and bringing her and breaking our COVID rules, and uh, you know, uh, to see her and their delegations, and then all the issues and problems with that. If this government had put that effort into working with Guyana and Suriname, that would have benefited us much, much more, instead of us waiting and hoping and crossing our fingers and until 2027, and having to go up to the US and to Venezuela. It is absolutely baffling why we are tying our fortunes into that,
well,
especially when
Dr.
we have other
Let me
options.
just go back to a point that you made earlier in your response when you spoke about opening the Guaracara refinery. You said that you have been in conversations at the United National Congress, that is, with the OWTU, and the latest figures suggest that it is going to be feasible. Exactly what are the latest figures saying in respect to what is it going to cost the people of Trinidad and Tobago to restart the Garkar refinery, knowing that it has been down for the last 6 years, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have final figures as yet, and of course that would be open. Uh, that would require much more detailed analysis, and we would obviously want that out for competitive tender as well. But I mean, the cost of leaving it closed has been far worse. Uh, I mean, this is why. I mean, imagine nowhere else in the Caribbean has this foreign exchange restrictions that we have. Barbados doesn't have it. St. Kitts, Antigua, Guyana, of course, Grenada, but Trinidad and Tobago, which has been the leading investment center in the English-speaking Caribbean for sure. Uh, the leading economy. We ever since the PNM government has come into power, we've had these foreign exchange restrictions and controls, and that is because they shut down Petrotrin, they shut down Caroni as well, because we have to go back to that as well, because those were our two major foreign exchange earners. And the Keith Rowley had absolutely lied with regard to the reasons for shutting down Petrotrin. It makes no sense whatsoever. The largest refineries in the world import oil. The largest refinery in the world is in India. India produces no oil. Singapore also has one of the largest and most important refineries in the world. They produce no oil whatsoever. It's absolutely insane that this is given to this country as a reason, and it shows the lack of education that that we have on this matter, which is incredible for an oil producing country. But this is the policy of the PNM. They want us uneducated about these things so they can lie. But so so that reason, and also uh, freedom of information requests that have been made by friends and fishermen of the sea show that Petrotrin was not a burden on the state at all. They did not receive any subventions. The only subventions they received was in the year they were shut down in 2018. That's the only time. So um, but the fact is that so these companies have so that, and one other thing, even if it were true that we were losing TT dollars, the point is that we were gaining US dollars. So there's that is a very important difference. We yes, we may have been losing TT dollars, but I don't concede that overall. But even if we do concede that argument, you're losing TT to gain US. Now what are you doing? You are not gaining US at all. We are now importing gas. We are importing sugar, and we're also leaving the thousands of acres of land all over the country unmaintained. Uh, flooding, uh, flooding is
Before we hold on,
relational.
Dr. Liu, before we get to flooding, because there are other
Yeah,
points in that regard as well. Because the opposition leader, again, one of her proposals actually, she pledged to implement a system to determine the fuel price at the pump that, and I quote from her now, that protects the population while makes the fuel subsidy manageable, end quote. Those are one of her proposals as well. Beyond that, she's indicated that if the opposition returns to government or forms the next administration, there will be no property tax. That will be scrapped. And though it recognizes RIC has put forward recommendations, the opposition will not have a new utility rates for electricity or for water. How are these things feasible at this particular point in time? How is the United National Congress going to achieve this given the state of our economy?
Yeah, this is and again, this is another incredible miseducation of the country by the PNM. Any student of economics, first year student who understands uh, the economic cycles of recession, growth, and this is part of the capitalist economic cycle. So when your economy is in a recession, the policy response is not to burden the population further. It's to expand, it's to have expansive policy. You lower interest rates, you and you reduce taxes because what you want to do is have the population able to spend more, and then you also increase government spending so that the economy can restart. And that is what you call counter-cyclical. That's the term, counter-cyclical policy. That is just basic economics. Any first-year economics student will be able to tell you that. Then during the uptick, then that is when you should start to put taxes, try to restrain it so the inflationary pressures don't get out of control. And that is how you manage an economy. It is basic economics. When we have uh, when we have a downturn in the economy, you do not burden the taxpayers more. That what that is what they call pro-cyclical uh, policy, which then makes the recession worse. And if again, if anybody studies economics, and you could Google it right now if you want online, what is a recession? A recession in a proper economy is when you have 3/4 of negative growth, right? A quarter. So that's not a year, but a quarter. That's 3 months. Now, sorry, an advanced economy, they would call it a recession. When you look at the annual growth, you don't necessarily see that for the annual stats go down. But for us, especially because and this is the PNM backwardness, um, we have years of negative growth, not quarters. We have years. In the 80s was the major thing from 1982 to 1990, right? We had 8 years of negative growth. That's only been matched by Keith Rowley from 2015 down to 2021, I believe it was, with 6 years of negative growth. Years of negative growth. And that is because of the PNM's policies of pro-cyclical depression. So it is absolutely insane for any trained economist who even fathom that this could happen. So when the economy is shrinking, they increase interest rates, they increase taxes, so they decrease the spending capacity of the economy, and therefore we sink further into recession. So it is just basic economics that in a time of recession, you do not introduce new taxes, you do not increase rates. And you don't increase either interest rates or other utility rates.
But
You
Dr.
have
Maywood,
to
in all fairness, I mean, if that is the case that you're arguing, how how would you respond to the IMF, who just earlier this year, in June, actually, you know, said that the government, in terms of their handling of the economy, were actually doing quite well. Their policies were good. I believe that this will be the third year of growth that TNT is experiencing. And though the IMF has issued some warnings, it has also praised the government's approach to dealing with the crisis or the economy that TNT has been experiencing since the COVID-19 pandemic. How do you respond to that if this is the point that you're arguing?
because they're comparing to COVID. So yes, we have grown since COVID, but not since 2015, right? So we have lost. Let me get the figure here. We've lost 100 and was it 138 billion Uh,
I believe
let me
130 billion is our debt, the debt that we currently find ourselves in.
Uh,
So,
no, what I'm talking about, this is a figure, again, that it's almost as if the PNM hide these figures because have to get it from the World Bank, um, which is the real GDP, not nominal GDP. The way you compare an economy from year to year is using real GDP to take out inflation. And the largest economy we ever had was in 2014. That's when our economy was the largest. We produced the most. And right, so that was about 187. And since then, we have our national income has shrunk by $33.98 billion. That's $34 billion. That works out to a negative 2.57 per year, or about 4.25 billion every year we have lost. Right? So yeah, so what the PNM are doing are they're comparing PNM to PNM. They're comparing PNM 2024 to PNM 2020 under COVID when everything was shut down. Of course, compared to when everything was shut down, we've grown. But the point to compare it to is when they came into office. When they came into office, the economy has shrunk by 20%. You see? And one of the things about the IMF is that, they have a terrible track record, right? They have an absolute terrible track record in terms of managing economies. There are many economies like I think Jamaica has never been out of the IMF since the 70s, since they got in under Michael Manley in the 1970s. And you have all these IMF riots, and the IMF austerity programs have been a total disaster. Um, uh, and because you have to get into the whole history of the IMF. The IMF is really about balance of payments issues, which is uh, they were set up to deal with balance of payments issues, which is international trade, right? Not necessarily managing national economy, but they started to get into that in the 1980s with the debt crises, and their policies have been very disastrous. But the IMF have been comparing the PNM to PNM. What they need to do is to compare the PNM to when the UNC were in government, and that's what the uh, the PNM have been doing as well. They've just been comparing themselves to themselves. But if they
so
compare
um,
themselves now to when they just got in government, it's been an absolute crash.
So let me, because I'm trying to squeeze as much as possible in the time that we have left. So I'm moving forward in respect to, because I'm trying to touch on each sector. One of the other points that the opposition here responded to was that of the 5% offer by the Minister of Finance in respect to negotiations for wages with trade unions. And the opposition leader said that they're rejecting, the United National Congress rejects that 5% offer, though it's not theirs to reject, but said that it will work with unions to ensure that all workers, all members, earn a decent living wage. Given the current state of our economy, what is a decent living wage? What would the United National Congress define as a decent living wage in 2024, 2025, if that is the case, given all our current revenue streams?
Well, the leader of opposition has indicated that she is thinking along the lines of a $25 minimum wage across the board. But of course, these things would have to be dealt with um, by committees to deal with that, and especially tripartitism, which broke down under this government, right? And just to explain what tripartitism is this was something that the UNC have always been involved in, and the PNN never have been. I think there might have been some occasions where they've tried it, which is having government, labor, and business speak together about economic policy so that the welfare of all will be taken into account and you have some sort of consensus going forward. The PNM and the JTM entered into an agreement in 2015, in the last year of the PP government, uh, and the PNM committed to tripartitism, and they would work with labor, and then after they got into power, everything fell apart, right? And you see, and it's just like in 2020 when they promised the oil field workers union that they would get the refinery, and then after the election they didn't. That's typical PNM. You promise before the election, then after you just renege on it. As the leader of opposition showed from her research, there 90% of the promises made in the budgets, because we enumerated them all, have simply not been kept. Right? People don't remember them, and then so 100 of them have gotten repeated year after year after year because they make so many promises in the budget uh, that people can't remember when they don't even deliver it, and so they promise again as if it's new. But the tripartitism is extremely important so that we can, and remember, the UNC comes from the labor movement, right? The sugar workers union was our main base, but the ULF was the OWTU, the cane farmers, the transport workers, the sugar workers coming together as United Labor Front, which is our predecessor party before the NAR. So so we will definitely be working with labor and business to come up with these policies. But we cannot have an economy where people have to work 1 hour for a loaf of bread. Um, Something has to be done about this, and we need to sit around the table together, employers, workers, and the government to to come up with some sort of workable, acceptable solution to move forward. And we need to keep these tripartite mechanisms in place. The UNC's always done that when we were in government, and we will continue to do that again.
Well, again, moving forward, some of the points that the opposition leader also mentioned was re-examining Gate with the possibility of restoring Gate to what it was before it was restructured, I suppose. But also devices, again, whether that would be in the form of laptops or devices that have, you know, tablet devices that have all these textbooks already loaded and preloaded ebooks. The opposition leader has spoken again about devices as well as Gate. You have just mentioned that the PNM keep comparing themselves to when they came into office in 2015. Do you think that the United National Congress is still living in a mindset of 2010 to 2015 when the economy was doing far better than it is now, obviously? Do you think it's still living in that mindset, not recognizing the current state of affairs that we're in?
Of course, we are living that mindset, and we need to go back to that mindset because the reason why the economy is not doing well is because of the PNM. We are living in an oil boom right now, but we would never know that because of the PNM's policy, right? Energy prices are at record highs, right? And yet we don't feel it. In fact, we are in the worst state possible. The PNM have stolen our oil boom uh, from us, basically. Um, we should be experiencing an oil boom. It is the PNM policy that has us where we are. It is not the natural state. This is the direct result of PNM policy. And I have to say, both times the UNC were in government, um, the in under Pandey, there was the Asian crisis of 1997-98, which was a massive global crisis. And under Kamal Prasad Besessa, there was the Great Recession, right? Although it happened in 2008, 2009, the echoes were all into the 2010. And Trinidad and Tobago did not feel those crises. because of the way the UNC managed the economy, right? The PNM kept saying, oh, you're putting us in debt, you're putting us in debt, right? But we were growing the economy. The PNM have put us in more debt than all other governments combined while shrinking the economy, right? Um, Pointed with a growing economy, then you can pay back the debt. And that's what you call good debt as opposed to bad debt. Good debt is productive and increases your capacity to pay back debt as opposed to borrowing for salaries. That's like, so the PNM, they like take out a new credit card to pay off their old credit card, right? Instead of buying assets or to increase your earning capacity. But and what we did in the first UNC administration and the second was every time we built what Lloyd Best used to call the onshore economy, the local economy. So the infrastructure is extremely important for that because when you have roads connecting, good reliable roads, for example, connecting the entire country, all of a sudden people can start offering services, and you have vehicles as well, the affordable vehicles. People can start uh, having their own small businesses, start to interact and trade with one another. And so even when oil prices went down to $9 a barrel, we weren't feeling it because we had our own local economy uh, going because we are a very entrepreneurial people. And the same thing when Kama Prasad Bissessa was in government. She concentrated on infrastructure development as well. The Chinese have a saying, if you want to get rich, build a road. Because when you build a road, along that road, businesses are going to pop up. Residential developments, commerce, trade, all sorts of things. People are going to be interacting with one another. And that is how you build a local economy as well. You give people the opportunity. So so definitely, we will be growing the economy. That is the mindset. We'll be investing in our people. We'll be investing in our children, in education, in good schools. We won't leave 100 schools. Well, it was 100 schools built. It's over 60 of them dilapidated around the country. That is, if any of your viewers, drive by these places in Pinal, in Baidebe, in Aranguez, St. Joseph, these schools that have just been abandoned by the PNM, it is a crime. It is heartbreaking to see what they have done just out of political spite. And
So, so hold on, Dr. Mayo. I'm sorry to
sure,
interject you, but as I said, trying to squeeze in as much as
yeah,
possible. To the point that again, more proposals, a revision of CDAP to include new drugs, 24-hour dialysis centers across all healthcare facilities in TNT, well, major hospitals, at least the return to the baby grant as well. Proposals in terms of national security, the right to bear arms, stand your ground laws. So all of these things, these are just a few of the proposals put forward by the opposition leader. Now, passing legislation does not necessarily cost a lot of money. It still costs because you still need lawyers to draft bills, of course. So we understand that. But the opposition leader, in her response to the budget presentation, she said after over 5 hours of speaking, the Minister of Finance told the population nothing of plans to generate revenues. I've heard proposals from the opposition leader. They all sound well and good. I'm asking you this morning, exactly what are the UNC's proposals to generate revenue for Trinidad and Tobago? I hear how they want to spend the money. How are we going to be earning that money?
well, as I said, one of the major things is to revive the energy sector, which has collapsed under the PNM. Our gas production has gone down to 2003 levels. That's 21 years ago. Our oil production levels have gone down to 1939 levels. 1939. That's before World War II started. This is how, so that is a major thing, reviving our energy sector. Right? And
But
then
Dr. Hugo, again, sorry to interrupt.
it's
It,
reviving the economy as well.
it's not going to take it's not with the swish of a magic wand that we can revive the
That's right.
sector. And
That's
I
right.
understand what you're saying, but it also suggests that there's going to be a continued reliance on the energy sector, which means that these proposals that the opposition leader said upon assuming office, it's not going to happen. It's
No,
impractical.
no, no, because the other thing is to encourage the local economy because this is what got us through the last two times we were in government. The local economy, the non-oil economy, was booming because when you have a safe society, when you have a productive society, when you have a healthy society, an economy is made up of people. Right? This is what many economists and the PNM forget. The PNM really have inherited the colonial and slave mentality that people are a cost, right? That people are a cost and that you should suppress that cost. But where does the economy come from? In the PNM mindset, it comes from foreign investors, but that's what I would have to say. But then they've driven away foreign investors. We have negative foreign investment. So of course, that's another thing that the UNC will do is also bring in foreign investors as well.
Oh,
Uh, Again, it was highest under Kamla Prasad Besessan, right?
but how
And
do you plan on
you
bringing
know,
in foreign investors?
sorry.
How would you plan, or how do you propose to bring in foreign direct investment, foreign investors?
Well, we would. There are many ways of doing that. One is through policies to encourage them, and then actively going out to seek foreign investors in different spheres. And there are many people who have interests, constantly submit proposals uh, to government about coming here, but for all sorts of bureaucratic reasons. Um, and and I think people wanting to make deals. It just drives them away, you know. But we would actively go out and seek foreign investment, and this is what countries do all the time, right? Whether it be huge countries like India or smaller countries like Singapore, even Singapore still do that. They actively go out on trade missions. This is um, uh, what TIDCO has now been separated into tourism, and I can't remember what the industrial aspect of it. But TIDCO was supposed to be doing that. Was supposed to be encouraging uh, tourism and industrial development in Trinidad and Tobago, but they have not been doing anything. So we definitely have to revive TIDCO with trade and investment missions, not just trade missions, but actual investment missions as well. And so we definitely have to actively support foreign investment as well. But that is another aspect. And so as our economy grows, as our local economy grows and revives and comes out of the recession, just like we did it before. Remember, our economy grew uh, without a single tax being imposed. We actually reduced taxes, and our economy grew because we understand economics. Right? You do
But
not,
you also
in a
have
shrinking
to bear in
economy,
mind, Dr.
you do
Wegu,
not you do not shrink the spending base. That makes the recession worse and turns it into a depression.
no, but you also have to bear in mind, Dr. Mayhew, that and you said yourself this morning, oil and gas production was up, or revenues were high. I think we have the largest budget TNT's experienced under the People's Partnership government because there was money to come in. That has declined, not just because we're seeing a decline in production, but let's face it, the reserves that TNT once had is not existent there anymore. So again,
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
go
Okay.
ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. There's two things. Reserves. It's always a function of exploration, right? So when you don't have exploration, your official reserves will dwindle. So we need to explore, and there are many geologists who uh, who are confident that uh, there are more reserves out there. So we need to revive exploration. And the other point, sorry, what was the point you were making before um, the reserves issue? Because that was the one I
Declining production.
declining production, uh, and I think there was another point you had made before that, which I was going to. Um, but the decline in production, as you said, with the tax with the tax structure, um, and the active seeking of foreign investment and um, the local energy input, and we would also look to partner more strongly with Guyana and Suriname on that. But when you mentioned the energy sector, I went off track with I think it was another thing about the non-oil sector.
So then we
That
just actually come to that
yeah.
point in respect to non-energy revenues. How again, looking at all the proposals, how does the United National Congress plan on shifting TNT's
Oh,
dependence from the energy sector? How does it plan to diversify the economy away from our dependence on energy?
okay, right. I will get to that in terms of diversification. But the point was the budget. The fact is that this government has spent over $500 billion since it's been in office. So it's a big con job they've put on the population. No other government comes close spending the amount of money that the PNM government has spent. They spent far more than the PP government. Um, it's $530 billion up until last time, and now they're projecting another 60 billion more, and they're going to come and ask for more in the mid year as they always do. That's over $600 billion they spent. $600 billion. That's like twice the amount that the PP government has spent. So they coming, they saying that they don't have money to do X, Y, Z. That's a total lie. They've spent more. They've spent more than the PP government. And instead of producing growth on the highest economy, which is what we did, they've actually they've tanked our economy. They've shut it down by 20%. They've given us the highest murder rates we've had. Our infrastructure is dilapidated all over roads, bridges, schools, buildings. That and we have to ask, where did that $600 billion go to? That is that is incredible. We already know just in last year alone, $3 billion can't be accounted for. The Auditor General um, uh, cannot see where those $3 billion went, and the procurement regulator, even after the procurement regulation was gutted, so that they don't have oversight over the major contracts, even just the minor contracts, she found $5 billion contracts were awarded without proper tender. Right? That is massive corruption. The PNM have spent like wild, and then they keep crying to the population that they have no money. How do you spend over $500 billion when you have no money? That is absolutely false. That is a false narrative. We will spend the same amount of money, less even, um, and produce the results we got last time because it's the same government expenditure.
Well,
They
I'm so sorry.
and the oil prices are high. There is war in the Middle East. There is war in Russia. The gas prices um, have the methanol um, 20 since 2020. Sorry, and those will have to be tweaked somewhat because of the changed international uh, situation after COVID. But we have things like bioengineering, uh, ICT, of course, reviving the agriculture, um, reviving the carony as well. Um, then things like our cultural industries, tourism. So what we have in that document is 14 growth centers all throughout Trinidad, the East-West corridor, the Southern Peninsula, Central, the East, in all sectors, from tourism to manufacturing, to culture, to information technology. All these will be growth poles where we will be again actively seeking investors to invest inside there, and local investors as well, not just foreigners. Right? We always, whenever the UNC has been in power, we've always encouraged independent, local, small, medium enterprises to be part of that. The UNC have always fought for the inclusion of the people in the economy, and not just foreigners to come with government to government arrangements and then through taxes have the government control everything. That's the PNM ideology. That is not the UNC ideology. But we have these growth poles throughout the country, and that we will be revisiting them, and we are revisiting them in our manifesto. I am part of the manifesto committee as well. And so we need to look at the feasibility of that. But we have the structure out so that in each of these areas around the country, they will draw both investment and create employment, and have it evenly spread throughout the country, and not just in Port of Spain, you know, Point Lisas, well, which is actually dying and not rising, but in the energy centers, and but this is actually creating new economic centers, and that's been our proposals since 2020, and that is still our plan.
Dr. Mayhew, I want to thank you very much for your time this morning. Thanks for being with us on the program. You've been on for an hour, and I really appreciate that time. I look forward to the next opportunity to speak so we can discuss the United National Congress's preparations for the general election. So until then, sir, keep well and all the very best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. All the best. Take care. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the budget debate continues in Parliament, and we certainly look forward to the contributions on the part of government ministers and members of the opposition. But as I said, this affects everyone. I mentioned it last week. Please pay attention to what is being said. Bearing in mind, we also are in silly season, so there is a lot that is flying everywhere. So, ladies and gentlemen, of course, use your noggin. All right, let's take a break here on AM Prime. We'll return shortly. Stay with us.
Come travel with us as we explore Diwali across the globe. Diwali is celebrated in many countries worldwide, but do you know the traditions and practices of each nation? From Guyana to Australia, WESN presents Diwali Passport.
October 9th to October 30th, with replays on October 31st.
It's Diwali Passport, a WESN exclusive.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
Welcome back to AM Prime, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for being with us this morning as we continue with the conversation, shifting gears away from all the hustle and bustle of the budget and taking a look at another income stream for many, but also more something to celebrate. I'm speaking about Tobago Carnival, which is being held between October 25th and 27th. So it's just about 2 weeks away, ladies and gentlemen. Now, earlier this year, the Tobago October Carnival Association stated that there was plenty of a buzz, actually, and they're promising to take things up a bit of a notch for a greater experience. So let's see how preparations have fared as they get into the final lap before the celebrations on October 25th. I'm joined this morning by the interim president of the Tobago October Carnival Association, Mr. Dexter Sandy. Good morning, Mr. Sandy, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Keaton, and good morning to all your viewers.
Well, thanks very much for joining us. Indeed, as I mentioned earlier this year, the association promised to take things up a notch, promising a greater experience for patrons of Tobago Carnival. Has that come to fruition? Could we expect something even grander as compared to the previous years?
Definitely, we've been working very hard and feverishly with the Tobago Festivals Commission, who's really the host of the carnival, in terms of planning what this year's carnival will really look and feel like. It's something that we have been meeting with them since February, just after National Carnival, actually, and sort of planning out what new initiatives we're going to see in the space to elevate what we have presented for the last 2 years. This carnival being the 3rd edition. A lot of buzzes in the air, a lot of preparations are taking place on the grounds, so what is in store?
How many bands do we have this year that have registered to actually partake in the festivities?
All right, so far, based on the data that we have, when it comes to Juve, we have just about 33 bands registered for Juve. Yeah, that's on the Saturday morning. Then we followed by the night mass. We have about 15 bands registered for night mass. And when we come to the parade of the bands on the Sunday, the 27th, we have 22 bands registered for the road.
Oh, wow, that's incredible. Those are great numbers, actually. So as you mentioned, this event started in 2022. Since then, as it continues to grow, do you think it's gathered significant attention from abroad? I know that Trinidadians love to come across and spend a weekend in Tobago, so carnival celebrations will always be a part of that list. But in terms of international participation and international attention, has that grown since 2022?
Definitely it has grown. The bands have all indicated that they have masqueraders from abroad. The bigger bands in particular, we're speaking here about Jade Monkey Mass, Iconic Mass, Foggy Angels. Even this year we have the Army Band. They're coming on the road for the parade of the bands. And they have also said that they have international interests coming in just for the festivities. So we're seeing where the carnival is now reaching out internationally. Earlier this year, the Tobago October Carnival Association would have been a part of a contingent hosted by the THA that went to Tobago Day festivals in New York. So that was part of reaching out to diaspora and gathering that sort of interest, not only for our citizens, but persons in New York who would have participated in it and saying, you know what, let's travel to Tobago for that October Carnival experience. So we're definitely seeing a lot of buzz coming from abroad. And of course, at home from Trinidad, we're getting complaints in terms of the availability because people are still looking to come over last minute. But if you didn't book early, availability of flights and boats right now would be a challenge, you know?
That always is a challenge, actually. Before I get to that point, though, I believe that you are the owner of Iconic Mass, and you mentioned that you had planned to double your sections. Have you been able to do that?
Definitely. For year one and year two, we had 3 sections, and this year we have 6 sections on the road. Right, so definitely we have achieved it. We have widened the span in terms of the designers. We have designers from Tobago, Trinidad, and abroad in the US, right? Just to make sure that we have a wide offering and improve the experience on the road as well. We've placed a lot of emphasis on that as Iconic Mass. Bmobile has come on board as our title sponsor, and once again, they're partnering with us and ensuring that both brands represent well for the Tobago Carnival.
Now, based on the data that the association has at hand, have bands sold out, or are they at that point where they're near sold out?
So no, we're not sold out yet. There's still room across all bands. Some are actually reporting 50%. There are others that are reporting closer to 70% in terms of sales, right? However, there are some smaller bands that are still sort of, I would say, struggling. They may not have the capacity and the resources of the larger ones, but definitely their product is good. So for anybody last minute, as in within these last 2 weeks, you know, you can check out the welcometobago.com page. And you will see the listing of the bands, and you'll also see their social media handles. And that way, you can check out their social media, see what they're offering, and come out and support and register with the band.
Now, that being said, space is available. It comes back to the point that you were making earlier. An issue is getting to the island of Tobago to celebrate Tobago Carnival. Has the association been able to speak, whether it be to the THA, and the THA advocating on behalf of them to central government, Caribbean Airlines, have they been able to have such dialogue to try and bring out some sort of a reprieve to this issue where you will see additional flights or sailings for that particular weekend, October 25th to 27th?
Definitely, the association has been having meetings, and in those meetings with the THA, Festivals Commission to be exact, we have emphasized that we do need that support from the air and the sea bridge. They have made their efforts through their channels to have the conversations with the Port Authority and Caribbean Airlines. I know the Port Authority has already pledged and they've delivered in terms of they're having 3 sailings each day from the Thursday and the Friday to get to Tobago, as well as the regular schedule that occurs on the Saturday and Sunday. And even for the return, they've pledged additional sailings for persons who have come across with festivities to return on the Monday through to the Tuesday. The airline is a little more tricky because we've seen where flights were sold out for quite a while. But us as band leaders, we're looking for flights for masqueraders. And from day to day, you may see a flight number pops up with some available seats. And it's something that we constantly have to check. Yeah, it's not something that is structured that we know, okay, we can directly go and get these particular amount of seats based on when a masquerader requests it. So whilst the masquerader themselves may be looking on the portal, we also assist by checking day to day to see what pops up as availability. You know?
Oh wow! So the association really has its hand in almost everything from planning to execution, even in to flights. I know that there's a concern that has been expressed. No budget has been announced for October Carnival right around the corner. Again, what is the word coming from the Tobago House of Assembly in relation to that? Do you think that with no sense of clarity, that there is a lot surrounding the possibility that Tobago Carnival might not necessarily be as grand as being proposed or put forward?
Well, the budget aspect is really under the purview of the Tobago House of Assembly, Tobago Festival Commission, the entity that's really managing it. So that falls under their purview. But we as bands, we have been planning and executing because we've launched, a lot of us have launched since May this year. May, June, July, a lot of bands were launching their offering and really setting up our business models based on advertising and drawing in sales and planning our execution. So a lot of focus from us has not really been placed on what budget is being announced because we know how that goes, right? If you place your high hopes on waiting for that announcement, expectations may not be met, you know? So for us, we've really just been focusing on what we have to do, marketing the years of the carnival, the THA has always pulled through in terms of presenting the infrastructure that is required for the carnival, ensuring that it's proclaimed, and all those other aspects that we benefit from on the road, right? So I think they're more than able to, when they are ready, to come out with the budget announcement.
And in respect to marketing has been sufficient as well. You have seen satisfactory marketing for Tobago Carnival.
I wouldn't say I'm 100% satisfied. However, there has been a lot of effort all around. And I'm speaking here, bands, I'm talking here, Tobago Festival Commission. And as early as, I think it was the second edition of the Caribbean Beat magazine, we've seen publications in there. As I said, the bands have been doing a lot of launches. And our launches have always been streamed online, so persons abroad can get visibility of what is being offered here in Tobago. I know some of our members would have also ventured to Trinidad, gone through some malls and done some activations, just have those face-to-face interactions with persons on the malls and the different locations to try and bring and create that buzz about the carnival.
You know, not that I want to jump too far ahead, but the association in its plans for the future. I mean, as I said, you're on the last lap, 2 weeks away before the festivities are due to be held. Has there ever been a conversation of taking Tobago Carnival from just a couple days to making it a seasonal thing, to making it an entire carnival season on the island of Tobago? Has that been something that has been discussed?
Yes, we have been brainstorming on a lot of stuff in terms of what the strategic plan would be for the carnival. Right, we're into the third year. There are some things that we're repeating, and I think we kind of have down pat. But for the carnival to really have that international appeal on a greater scale, we need to come up with a different strategy. And there are some things that, as an association, we have been planning with others. And when I say others, I'm speaking here about PAN, Tobago Division, the Tobago Promoters Association, even TUPO, the Tobago division of TUPO. Those three entities, along with MAS, we have been brainstorming and making some presentations in our meetings with the Festival Commission. So it's definitely something at the end of this year. We plan to have a more focused committee, which involves us, the stakeholders, in planning what's the next step for the next 3 to 5 years.
As I said, that's me jumping ahead a bit because it's all well and positive actually heading into the couple weeks ahead. What about the routes? Have they been finalized as yet? I know that they have not necessarily been released, but amongst the association members, has a route been finalized?
Yep. The route has been finalized. All the members, all the bands are quite aware of the route. The route will remain centralized in Scarborough. There are some bands that will take a different path in Scarborough, but it all allows for the festivities to be highlighted along the waterfront, Milford Road, Scarborough, as well as on the Claude Noel Highway for the larger bands. So you get a lot of scenery on the route, and it's one thing a lot of persons have said, that the Tobago route is really unique. When you're on that wide expanse of the highway and you come into Scarborough across the waterfront, it's really a beauty and something to capture. The footage to capture it makes memories, you know. So definitely the route has been finalized and all the bands are aware and they're quite happy with the route set out.
Thing is, Tobago ordinarily is scenic as is.
Yeah.
But I haven't been to Tobago Carnival as yet. I haven't had that opportunity. And I just keep picturing it in my head, you know, what the revelers and the masqueraders would be experiencing. Think about Juve earlier on a morning on a beautiful island like Tobago. That's absolutely incredible. I must say I'm a bit jealous. I hope that I can make it next year.
We need to send a ticket for you. It's not too late.
I think so. It's not too late at all. If you get one, you bet you I will be there, definitely. But in that respect as well, is there anything new this year that has been planned and will be executed?
Yeah, one thing that we requested very early in the season would have been a stage, right? A staged area that would mimic what really happens at the Queen's Park Savannah. And Festival Commission would have come on board with the idea and agreed that yes, there needs to be a staging area. This year, they haven't quite achieved the actual stage, but there is a specified staging area in Lower Scarborough Market Square, to be exact, that will be set up and really outfitted to mimic the Savannah outside of the physical elevated stage. But definitely we have said that come 2025, we really need to have that elevated stage to really utilize what our best practices in Carnival. You know, the euphoric feeling of a masquerader crossing that stage is really hard to duplicate. And it's something that we might try to come in as close as possible, right? We may not be able to duplicate what happens on Monday and Tuesday, but let's see if we could produce something that's similar. Yeah, and we really want to give the experience.
I honestly think that there is no need to even try to duplicate what happens Monday and Tuesday. Tobago itself is unique. The identity, even the culture on the island, everything about Tobago is unique, and that is the potential of Tobago. You know, I tell you what, me personally, I'll sound very biased, but I love Tobago. I absolutely love Tobago.
Excellent. No, and you're correct. There's no reason to duplicate. But what we have realized that there are some elements that really attract and draw the market. And the feature of a stage for bands to cross is tradition. So it's one that we really asked for. And we're getting half of it this year. But come next year, definitely once we do have that element, I think it would elevate the Tobago Carnival experience.
Yeah, half this year and half next year. Mr. Sandy, everything sounds very, very positive. Everything sounds as though it's really on track to be a great carnival. Anything else that needs ironing out or smoothing out at this particular point in time, or we're all good?
I would say from the band's perspective, it's all go. Majority of bands are into production mode. They are still doing some elements of marketing because we still have costumes on sale. So to the viewers listening and part of this program this morning, I would say it's still not too late. You know, you can check on the portals to see if you can get across. That's Caribbean Airlines and also on the Port Authority online. If it is you do get that ticket and you're lucky enough to get that ticket, come across. Tobago is prepared for you. The mass bands, we are prepared to host you, and there are a lot of other activities taking place as well. There's Rhythm, Steel and Powder on the Saturday, which is hosted by Pantrin Bago. There's even an individual mass competition being held on the Friday evening at the same staging area. So a lot of activities happening over the 3-day period, climaxing with the Sunday. So I'm saying that we're all here as bands ready to take on new masqueraders. Persons who just want to come across and wet your feet for the first time playing mass, you know. Tobago is a place to try it.
Well, definitely, indeed, and I think you've convinced me enough to try and stretch those brain cells to fight for a flight or a sailing across the Mr. Sani, thank you very much for joining me on the program this morning, and I'm so happy to hear that things are looking up, and I look forward to what's to come from October Carnival, Tobago Carnival, their very, very own. And to you, to all the bands, all the very best. Enjoy it. I hope I can be there. I hope I will be there.
Definitely. We'd love to host you across here just for the experience.
Indeed. And Mr. Sani, to you and to the entire team, all the very best. Keep well and take care.
All right. Same to you. Take care.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, October Carnival, Tobago's Carnival. I need to stop saying October Carnival. Yes, it's held every October, but Tobago's Carnival, Tobago's very own, is being held on October 25th to 27th. A number of activities are taking place, as Mr. Sani would have pointed out. But indeed, as I've mentioned, as I said, I could be a bit biased, but imagine that unique experience. If you had the opportunity, lucky you. With work, we don't always get the opportunity to go, but we'll certainly try. I'll certainly try. I definitely am going to try, because there's no place like Tobago. It's absolutely sweet. The island, the people, the experience, everything about Tobago is beautiful. And that being said, if you enjoy this interview this morning, see if you can also try and get across to Tobago for their carnival celebrations. There are costumes that are still available, and there are rooms that are still available. I know the biggest issue is actually getting to the island itself, but if you can, don't miss that opportunity. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for AM Prime. Thank you very much to all my guests, Dr. Kirk Mew, for joining me, first of all, for the first hour of AM Prime this morning for that extensive conversation. We look forward to the next, and of course to Mr. Dexter Stanley, who we just had on for Tobago's Carnival. Everything sounds good there, and they are certainly a go-ahead, so all the very best to them. To you, the viewer, AM Prime would not be possible without you. We do receive emails. We always receive some emails with feedback, and we always receive emails with suggestions. And if you have a topic that you'd like to speak about, if you'd like to be a part of AM Prime, feel free to reach out to us. You can call us at WESN at 628-5835, or you can email us at amprimewesn@gmail.com. As you can see, the team in studio are very hard. They've got that lower third up for you. Again, 628-5835, or email us at amprimewesn@gmail.com. Reach out to us. We're always willing to hear from you, and we certainly appreciate your feedback. But if you want to talk to us as well, and if there's something that you'd like to speak about, you have an opinion, you just want to get something out there, some information out there, reach out to us. We'd be glad to work with you. To my team in Ryan Gomez-Burke and Milewood, thank you very much as always for your continued hard work. And to Naomi McNish, sorry, that was a bit of a tongue twister, Naomi McNish, for producing AM Prime. Certainly, we appreciate all your hard work and efforts. I'm Keaton Shaw, reminding you today is a good day to have a good day. We'll see you again very soon, TNT. Stay sweet as always, and keep fighting to stay sweet. Bye-bye.
WESN.
Come travel with us as we explore Diwali across the globe. Diwali is celebrated in many countries worldwide, but do you know the traditions and practices of each nation? From Guyana to Australia, WESN presents Diwali Passport,
October 9th to October 30th, with replays on October 31st.
It's Diwali Passport, a WESN exclusive.
Money is something we all deal with, but how many of us truly understand it? What if you could make better decisions with your money? Decisions that secure your future, protect your family, and bring you peace of mind. I'm Darren Jacobs, and I'm here to help you make sense of your dollars. Welcome to Dollars and Cents, the show that breaks down the financial world in ways that matter to you. No jargon, no confusion, just real conversations about money, your money. So join me every Wednesday at 10 a.m. on WESN for Dollars and Cents.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business. I'm not to do with that.
I find that was this